Vikings versus Broncos.
Let's rock, let's roll, tick-tock, let's go, let's rock, let's roll.
10 seconds to go, 24-23 Saints. Vikings at their own 39, it's third down. Three receivers right, Thielen left. Marshawn Lattimore 12 yards from Adam. Case on a deep drop, steps up in the pocket. He'll fire to the right side, caught by Diggs. Stay up! Oh my God! 30! No way! Touchdown!
To the end zone, no false stars. And it's always 10 toes, no half hard. I'ma hit you with a move that you can't guard.
Tick-tock, let's go! This is where your Climbing the Pocket Network's personalities and guests get together to talk about your Minnesota Vikings. So it's time to let's go! Hey everybody, we're here at Climbing the Pocket Network Roundtable. And tonight we have Flip from 15 Minutes with Flip Mozzie, Miles from Climbing the Pocket, and Matt Freeze from one of our fantastic writers at Climbing the Pocket, the website. We're here to talk your beloved Minnesota Vikings. Flip, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, David. How are you?
I am good. I'm recovered from yesterday. That was hard on my heart. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, I hear you on that. It's been up and down almost all season, so I get the stressful times and people are feeling it, but we'll work through it.
Hey, well, I hope my liver will last that long because it was rough. Miles, how are you doing?
That's good. I'm good, man. I didn't really get after it like you guys did yesterday, but I almost had a heart attack too. It was a crazy game.
Matt, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, David. Yeah, I had the same thing. My liver was already recovering on Sunday, so I wasn't drinking too much, but I was wishing I was drinking for the first half at least.
Oh. Well, I was putting out on Twitter, this team is driving me to drink, and I.
Yep.
But,
see, that's why I don't tweet during games. I can't do it.
I tried to. I had to stream the game, so I try to stay on Twitter whenever I'm doing that because you get tipped plays so easily.
Yep. That's what I'm doing with the Monday night game right now.
Yeah, I've got it on too, and I've got it muted. Oh. Anyways, this is probably the biggest crowd the Chargers have had in at least a year, if not two.
Well, it was bigger than the Rams crowd at the Coliseum last night.
That was awful. That game was awful.
It was really bad.
Speaking of crowds, how many of you saw Broncos fans in U.S. Bank yesterday?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Is it just because it's deer hunting season and people were giving away their tickets to be out in the woods?
I think it's because of the opponent, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy to get from Denver to Minneapolis, right? Denver's a hub, so you can fly to Minneapolis, and it's not like a marquee opponent, so I think fans are just more willing to sell the tickets.
Right. I agree with that. That's probably what it was.
Okay. Well, let's start with the first half. Matt, what did you think of that first half?
I thought it was like, I don't know, the classic Vikings of the Bears game and the Packers game this year. Like that's what it looked like the whole time. I mean, we couldn't get anything in the run game going. So that put us behind the sticks the entire time, right? Because we were in second and long, we're in third and long, and then we just can't get anything going. Kirk Cousins was not throwing passes down the field. So I think he was actually 11 of 12 in the first half or something, but he only had 58 yards, right? So it was all like flat passes and screen passes to running backs. We were trying to get it going that way, and it just wasn't working out for us. We weren't converting on third down. We weren't getting those first downs. I was also a little frustrated with Zimmer. The first 4th and 1, I can excuse going for a punt there. It's early in the game. You don't want to give them the ball in scoring position right away. But the second one where we had already crossed midfield, or we were like right on midfield, and it's a 4th and 2, I think you're down. I think we were only down 3, but you're down points. This team really had not shown the ability to come back after they're down by any margin, really. So far in the season, like we've gotten 7 points. So if we go down 2 scores, which we did after we punted there, I really didn't have a whole lot of hope of us coming back at that point. And, I think they got back to the 49-yard line in 2 plays. So even if we fail, it's not like we're giving up that much. But I mean, just in general, we couldn't get the offense going, and we weren't aggressive enough, I felt, in the first half.
What do you think, Miles?
I 100% agree. I mean, I think the one play that really stands out to me, and I know I've seen it on Twitter too, that people have talked about, was the Vikings get a free play. The Broncos jump off sides. You have a free play. Diggs recognizes it and runs deep, and your quarterback checks it down to the fullback. I mean, that just kind of tells you that, to me, just like epitomized that first half in general. Like, what you have an opportunity to kind of give a spark to your offense. Not that you expect the big play to happen to Diggs, but like taking a shot, because you never know if you get a pass interference, anything. Just taking that shot on, it's basically a free play, so they're asking you to go deep, and you're not even willing to take that shot. So that was kind of disappointing to me. And then there's some just things like really kicking themselves in the foot. I mean, the Vikings really tried to give that game away yesterday, like on so many different occasions. You have three fumbles. They fumbled 3 times, gave it away twice. You have a big play to Diggs in the first half that's negated by a holding penalty. Reef got worked quite a bit. Reef and Elflein got worked quite a bit during the game. Had some key penalties at key times that you didn't want to see. And then, yeah, like Matt said, not really being able to move the ball, not pushing it downfield. But the Broncos really treated this Vikings team like the Packers did. They were like, or not the Packers, the Bears did, and kind of the Chiefs. They were like, we're not going to let you beat us with your running backs, and we're not going to let you beat us with Dalvin Cook. Go ahead, Kirk Cousins, take the game in your hands. We trust our defensive backs to play man coverage against your wide receivers behind Diggs, especially. We trust our guys to do that, and obviously in the second half it worked, but in the first half it was working for the Broncos because the Vikings weren't taking shots, so they're willing to just keep everything in front. 5-6 yard passes here and there. It's not really doing anything for you. So I thought the hurry up before the half, not that they ended up scoring any points, but I think it kind of jump started what they were going to do in the second half, and then obviously we saw in that second half they stayed in up tempo basically the entire game, the entire second half.
Well, you talk about they're playing against the run. They had 8 men in the box all night.
Oh, yeah.
When we were defeating that earlier, it was because we had Diggs and Thielen. And when you have 8 men in the box, one of the safeties is up, you just run a crosser with those 2 receivers, and the remaining safety's got to pick one. The other one's open, right? And we had so much success with that. We haven't had that as much since Adam Thielen's been out with his hammy. The news is today that most likely he'll be ready to play come Monday night against Seattle here in 2 weeks, which is good. Flip, we've gone through the dregs of the first half. What was the big changes you saw in the second half?
It's interesting. I saw a team that was more committed to execution, and really, we can talk scheme, we can talk numbers. The big change is that just the Vikings refused to take no for an answer, and they stepped it up. Their level of play is what improved. I think Kirk Cousins more so was more aggressive, but outside of that, the blocking was better. The defense played better, and Denver their offense just unloaded this bag of tricks against the Vikings defense, which I think led to a lot of their success. And once those plays went away, that's what enabled the Vikings to actually get back in this game when they actually took Denver as a serious threat and refused to take no for an answer. I think another key is just Kirk Cousins. The play, the check down on the free play is like that is Kirk Cousins to a T. Like, even when he's playing good in the second half, you just go back to that play And I think he honestly doesn't have the capability to tell the difference between a free play on an offsides and a free blitz. It's like he interprets that as a blitz, and he's like,
Panic,
okay,
panic.
I gotta check down now. It's like, no, Kirk, that is not a blitz.
That's 100% right there.
Yeah. And it's that agnostic kind of view that Kirk Cousins uses. Like he's gonna start the game throwing it to CJ Ham and BC Johnson, and that makes no sense at all. But in the second half, when those guys are open, he's gonna start delivering the ball to Diggs and to Rudolph. I like the Vikings offense. I kind of like the large variety of weapons they have, but I think they just go too far sometimes, and it's okay to force the ball into Diggs, force the ball into Rudolph, because those guys are always the ones who are consistently making plays for this team.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think going back to that, Kirk not being willing to throw the ball down the field early and that sort of thing, that ties in kind of to the Bears game previously, because that's why Thielen and Diggs were so pissed off after that game, right? Because if you watch the All-22, if you watch the tape of the game, they're getting open deep, and they have opportunities if Kirk pulls the trigger and throws the ball deep. And I don't remember how many targets each of them had in that game, but the vast majority of Diggs came on that last desperation drive, right? So here we opened it up, a lot earlier than we did in the Bears game, even if we started out kind of at a similar pace, and it really benefited us to do that once we started in the third quarter. We didn't wait until it was too late this time, and that's a really good sign, I think, for the team.
Agreed. Yeah. No, go ahead.
It's quite encouraging that we came back.
Yeah.
Very encouraging. You read some articles after this game. There's no such thing as moral victories, but all the players reference that game against Green Bay where they almost put off the comeback, and they said to themselves, we're going to get it right this time. And there was a lot of discussion about how Mike Zimmer practiced these late game situations more during the offseason. So I guess they're just more prepared for these types of games now, which is great. But hopefully, our hearts can't handle 5 more of these. So
no.
Yeah, you better.
Nor my liver. Hey,
I don't think you can ask for that though. Real quick, this is the last negative I'm going to say about the game and about the Vikings in general for right now, just because they have played well the last 6-7 weeks, what have you. But what I'm really still confused about, especially with Adam Thielen out, is how Kirk Cousins hasn't. You guys talked about it a little bit with Stephon Diggs, how he hasn't force-fed Stephon Diggs more often. Even when he's not considered the first read in your progression, how is he still not one of the guys you see a one-on-one matchup against a defensive back? How is that not the first read for you? Even if he's running even if it's not the primary read, he's your best offensive player. You could say what you want about Dalvin Cook, but passing the ball downfield creates more points, creates more big play opportunities. Whatever, we don't have to get into that flip. And I'm not saying that doesn't make Dalvin Cook valuable, because he is. But Stephon Diggs brings that different kind of element to this offense, and he's shown that he's really good at contested catches as well. Back in 2017, I think he was the top-rated receiver in the league in contested catches, and we saw Case Keenum give him and Thielen those opportunities, those 50-50 balls quite often. More good than bad happens when you throw Stephon Diggs the football. So I don't understand why. Even yesterday, we only saw 5 receptions. We saw 3 against the Cowboys. We saw 1 against the Chiefs 3 weeks ago. Things like that. I still don't understand how that's not hasn't been remedied. So it's just a nitpick that I have right now.
Yeah, Miles, I agree there. I think if you got Diggs singled up on one side and he's got one guy on him, that has to be an alert in your progression,
right? And
you have to come to that immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hey, you see a lot of other teams do that, with their top receiver a lot. Their quarterbacks, they're like, oh, hey, my top guy has a one-on-one matchup. I don't care what the route is, I'm throwing it.
One wide receiver screen. We've seen so many tight end screens, so many running back screens. Run one receiver screen. One.
Hey,
Yeah,
I want to
no, I'm with
welcome BJ Reiddell of our newest show, Unbelievable, airs on Tuesdays and Thursdays. He's joined the group. How you doing, BJ?
I just wanted to crash your guys' party.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm enjoying listening to you guys talk. Honestly, you guys are doing a good job. I don't know how much I can add to the conversation when you're breaking down. I mean, I think Flip's point about honestly, I don't know which one of you would have said it, but like you need to get the ball to Stephon Diggs. He needs to be, like Miles said, the first read for sure. And if he's singled up one-on-one, absolutely. Like there's no.
Oh,
There's no.
Flip didn't say that. Flip wants Dalvin Cook to do everything.
MVP.
Yeah, I mean I mean, Stephon Diggs has to be more involved. Like, there's no excuse for having one target that essentially was knocked off because of that ridiculous holding call in the first half. Like, there's no excuse for that. There has to be plays where it's just literally like you're going to force feed it to him, and if you get one-on-one coverage, like you said, it's got to be an alert. That ball has to go up in the air, especially when you're struggling to get the ball more than 5 yards downfield. It's ridiculous, right?
Right. Yeah. And in the first half, there was only one pass that went over the 10-yard line, and it was only for 11.
Absurd.
That was it. And when I've been watching, and most of you know, I'm really hard on Kirk Cousins. Most of his bad games is when he's not throwing downfield. Thankfully, in the second half, and what I heard, I didn't see, but I heard, Stephon Diggs was one that ignited a lot of the players and kept encouraging them on the sidelines. It wasn't Kirk Cousins yelling at a receiver. It was Stephon going, come on, we can do this, especially when the defense was on the field. He was yelling out at them, and he was talking to the other guys on the offense. To me, that is a leadership step that we need and will pay dividends, as we go further into December and hopefully way into January.
Yeah, so to add on to that, David, real quick, there were two really good articles that came out in The Athletic today that were kind of like based on the interviews and that sort of thing, on the oral history, kind of how the comeback happened. And there was one specifically on Stephon Diggs that were just, I want to shout them out because they were really good pieces, right? But like they really give you a good feel for the way kind of the game went.
BJ, what do you think of the second half? Second half? Okay, well, first and foremost, I did not enjoy this football game. Like, there's part of me that, like obviously I saw the score at the end of the game, right? And I was happy, like every other Vikings fans, that, we're moving to 8-3. You got a bye week coming at the right time. All of that is great, right? But, like, there was no part of me as a fan, and I'm a Minnesotan born and bred, like, I'm stuck as a Vikings fan. I don't even have a choice. There is no part of me that enjoyed that. It was the ultimate roller coaster of emotions, and that final drive in the second half was just the apex of that. I mean, like, you go score 4 touchdowns in a row in the second half. Everything's going great. It seems like nothing can go wrong, and you're waiting for that back-breaking moment, right? As a Vikings fan, like, we've seen it so many times. You're waiting for that moment to come. You get 4 straight touchdowns from the offense, which is straight up unprecedented. The numbers on that are just ridiculous. It just does not happen. And you get to the point where the defense is about to choke it away for you. You know how many times I was like, I could feel my heart beating out of my chest. I wear a Fitbit on my wrist, right? Just to see my, to see how many steps I take on a daily basis. I saw my heart rate creep up over 115 sitting on my couch. Like, what? It's just not, it's not healthy. It's not a good experience. Like, I didn't have fun watching that game. But, ultimately you could see the shift in how that game went, right? Like, I mean, you go from play calling that was very, pedestrian, to say the least, in the first half, to being willing to, first of all, you're basically running like a 2-minute drill for the entire second half, which I didn't even think Kirk Cousins was possible. Like, he could possibly do that. I haven't seen him do that type of thing before in his career. He's hurrying it up to the line. He's leading this team more than any time in his entire career, which was awesome to see. I truly had, like, belief in who he was as not just a talented signal caller, but like as a leader of men. So that was great to see. And then you see everything shift from everything going wrong, from the fumbles, the stupid penalties, the drops, the poorly ran routes, all of that stuff, just poof, it was gone. And all of a sudden you're seeing this team that looks like a Super Bowl caliber, offense. It was a dramatic shift, and it was exciting. But like I said, I mean, I can't do that every week. And I heard you guys did.
No, there's no way. I mean, 2 weeks in a row, especially. Well, 3 weeks in a row. You forget about the Chiefs game because they lost it.
Right.
But then you jump into the Cowboys game. You jump literally the last play of the game was it had played the outcome of the entire game. And to your point, BJ, talking about the 2-minute drill, basically the entire second half. I was impressed with that whole scenario because there was part of me like they're going to still want to try to establish the run, aren't they? They're going to continue to try to run the ball consistently, try to make sure they establish it in some capacity. And they were like, no, I mean, yeah, they ran it every once in a while here and there, but they were like, no, we know that the only way we're going to get back in this game is throwing the football. And it was just good that to see it so that you knew, they talked about it earlier in the season when the complaint was we're running it too much. We can't just be so reliant on the run. And Kirk and a lot of those guys that said there's going to be games later on in the season that we know we need to rely on the pass to get us into games, back into games, whatever it is, keep us in games. This was that game especially. And to really be able to see it come to life. And I kind of like that this game comes with the bye up next because they kind of do get to kind of calm themselves down a little bit after that 3-week stretch of hiatus. Like, it was nuts. And so now you get that opportunity to really kind of calm down, recollect yourselves, let guys get healthy, and then kind of go into it with that final stretch, but with momentum in your favor as well. So it's kind of one of those, like, you take it as a positive because you won the game, but you don't want to keep going down that route.
Free lesson in wins. That's what you got to take away, and you get a ton of free lessons on how poorly they played in the first half. You got a lesson that Kirk Cousins should never execute a quarterback sneak. Like, get rid of that play.
No, I'm not against it.
I'm not against the sneak.
Sneak's a high percentage play. Most of the time.
I do not trust Kirk Cousins holding that ball to get that yard. I honestly don't.
Kirk is like Flip, just real quick. Kirk is like 7 out of 10 in his Vikings career on quarterback sneaks, and that includes the failure in the Redskins game and the game yesterday.
Okay, well, if we've got data, I'm convinced. Let's keep on sneaking. That's all I need.
I heard something today.
I mean, it's a proven stat. Like I know people, even with the Chiefs, they're like, oh, why would you run that with Patrick Mahomes and he gets hurt? It's like because it's the high percentage play.
Right. Most quarterbacks get it.
That snap with the slash he's got going on in front of him, it just doesn't always look as smooth as it should be.
Yeah, I mean, it's more about the push on the offensive line than it is, and finding just like a small crease to fall into. So if your offensive line doesn't get any momentum at all, then I mean, you're screwed.
Yeah, they got stood up so bad on that play.
They got stood up
all game. I mean, they got stood up all game basically in the run game yesterday, which
the CJ Ham fullback dive wasn't exactly great either. It's like I understand heading after the fullback. Like it's not a lost art in my mind. I know that a lot of NFL teams just straight up don't use a fullback, but I mean, when you have Dalvin Cook in the backfield and you need 1 yard, do you really have more confidence in giving like a quick handoff, like and trying to catch the defense off guard with CJ Ham or Dalvin Cook, who has literally broken the first tackle every single time this year, seemingly? Like, does that make sense?
Or even Madison.
He can beat anybody to the edge too. So it's like,
he did that on that touchdown run too.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
He basically trotted into the end zone on that touchdown run when he had a defender, within a couple yards of him to start that play.
Yeah. Or run a wide receiver screen. Just like just one.
Just like let Stephon break a tackle, because he will also break that the tackle from that first defender 9 times out of 10. But yeah, I mean, it was like you said, Miles, it was symptomatic all game. It wasn't just the CJ Ham run. It wasn't just that 4th and 1 sneak. It was every single run play we had. Like, the interior defensive line for the Broncos was dominating our interior offensive line. Like, I don't even know who they are. Like Shelby Harris.
Yeah, their starter got hurt. Their nose tackle got hurt early in the game. It just like the Chiefs game. They were like, hey, even with our backups, we're going to not let you run the football. I don't know.
going back to your point on the Diggs screen, by the way, at some you guys have watched the Maryland film, right? When Diggs was basically Percy Harvin in Maryland's offense.
Yeah.
How do you not inject that into this offense in some way, right?
Well,
because he's dynamic when he touches the ball. It's it's inherent to his game.
BJ gonna get me going, man.
Last year though, John DeFilippo only used him on screens.
And I'm okay with that to a degree. Like, you can mix and match it. Like, I still want to see those deep shots downfield, but at the same time, like, he can be a gadget player too. He was literally Percy Harvin coming out of college.
It doesn't make sense to me. The last 4 weeks, Adam Thielen's been out of the game. How are you not moving Stephon Diggs around the entire formation on multiple, on every drive? It doesn't have to be every play, but like on multiple occasions. Like, I liken this. Again, I'm going on another rant. I said I was going to be negative, but whatever. We're leaning into it.
Negative self.
Sometimes the Vikings treat Stephon Diggs the exact same way, and in a poor way, the Cleveland Browns are treating Odell Beckham Jr. You're putting him at stationary on the line of scrimmage and asking him just to win one-on-one, which is fine because you know he can do it. But you can be so much more creative with these guys, with how talented they are after the catch, their ability to win downfield, to do so many different things. They're not one-trick ponies. They're guys that in the screen game, they're dynamic with the ball in their hands. They're dynamic down the field. They catch everything. Like, it's just crazy to me how as an offensive coordinator like Kevin Stefanski, how my game plan, especially with Adam Thielen out of the game and not even in the game plan, how your game plan for the passing game isn't let's move our best pass catcher everywhere and get him involved all the time.
So I think an example of that, Miles, well, I've got a couple things. But first of all, we run, obviously, with our outside zone, we run like a levels concept off the bat a lot, right? So we've got one person out on the flat, we've got one person running a crosser over the middle, and then we've got one person running deep. Diggs has always been the deep man. Like, every single time this year. I don't understand, because he's great after the catch as well. I mean, he has had the fumbling issues this year, so I guess that could be a bit of a concern. But, like, he'll work it out. I don't see why he won't work it out. Like, you get him with room to run over the middle of the field, because like that's what we hit Rudolph on for that touchdown.
Right.
I think we hit BC once or twice on it on
and
this drive.
They hit Diggs on it once in the first half that got nullified.
Yeah, right. It's like we should be running that with him more often, because he's going to get open more often on that, and that's probably the route you're going to hit most often on that sort of concept.
Well, that's the Adam Thielen route, which is fine, but like they never interchange it. They're not like, oh, hey, Adam, this time you go run deep, and Stephon, you run the crosser route, the easy crosser route. They're like, no, Adam, you just do it, and you keep getting yards.
Because they're both like complete wide receivers. They can both do everything.
Exactly.
So why not confuse defenses a little bit? But back to Diggs. So I was looking at it earlier today. I mean, Diggs has been so good as a deep threat this year. He leads the league in 30-yard receptions, 40-yard receptions, and 50-yard receptions, which those lists aren't as like consistent as you would think in terms of the players at the top of them. And he's also leading the league in yards per reception. He's leading the league in yards per target, and he's second in yards per reception to Mecole Hardman for the Chiefs.
That fast, right?
Yeah, for a guy. Well, Chris Harris. Thanks. But like you said, Miles, I don't think he should be leading the league in those things. I think we need to get him some shorter passes, let him work after the catch.
I think it's okay to lead the league in that, but I mean, if you look at how often it's happening, it's not happening enough.
Right. I would rather Stephon Diggs be leading the league in receiving yards, right? And not leading the league in yards per reception.
He's not Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah.
Well, let me pause a little bit here, because one of the things that we have to understand about this Vikings offense is Diggs is never going to be a receiving yards leader, because we just don't pass the ball that often.
Sure.
And
he threw the ball 35 times yesterday, and he had 5 receptions.
Yeah. Well, Diggs needs to get the ball more than that, but the interchangeable routes is definitely a thing we need to see going forward. I think Adam Thielen helps immensely, and I think this offense has another gear in it when Thielen returns. Right now, yes, Diggs can can do more than that deep route. But you look at the other wide receivers, and you don't trust Laquan Treadwell running the deep route. You don't trust BC Johnson running the deep route. So it's like, who is the guy who can actually threaten in different route trees? And Diggs is the only guy who can do it. So when Thielen returns,
you're right.
I'm hoping for more of that versatility.
That's why I've been saying for years that this team just needs a deep threat, a guy like a Marquise Goodwin, just a guy that can run deep, just to help take away things.
Yeah.
But whatever, we don't need to. We're down this rabbit hole now.
We'll get more into that
talk
in the
defense.
offseason when we look
We
at
haven't
the
even
draft.
talked Xavier Rhodes yet, so I don't know what's going to happen.
Right. Another negative take. I mean, the defensive backs in general. But the Vikings won yesterday on a miraculous comeback that you don't see often. It was 1 in 100 now, 1 in 99 in the last 5 years. So that's an impressive thing. So if we're going to get back to being positive, to be able to see your quarterback and your offense do some of that in the second half was really good to see.
Well, if I'm going to be honest, they did something I didn't think they had in them. Like, at halftime, I said to myself, basically, if they don't score a touchdown on the opening drive of halftime, I'm turning the game off. Because I was just so frustrated at that point. And they obviously turned it around, but, like, this is not what we've seen from Kirk Cousins throughout his Vikings career. This is not what we've seen from this Vikings team throughout even the Zimmer era, I would say. I mean, obviously we've had more of a defense focus, but we haven't been able to score the points when we needed to. So that's a huge positive.
We're on a pace right now. We looked up the numbers for Good Morning Gjallarhorn going into this game, and we're averaging 27 points a game on offense. We have not scored that many points on average per game since 2009.
Yep.
Under Brett Favre.
And I thought it was like closer to 29 points per game. I thought they had a graphic yesterday, and maybe it may be because they only scored 27 yesterday. But
when we look, we talked 27. But I know the 2009 team was just a little bit over 29 points per game. But we haven't been close since then. And this is with the defense getting old in front of our eyes, and that's the only way I can explain it.
It's true, though.
It is refreshing that the offense has stood up, come up. Kirk seems to be over some of his foibles. The rest of the offense, like you said, Flip, we got talent all the way around. We got great receivers, great running back, tight ends. We got a smorgasbord of wherever you want to throw the ball, we're going to get good results or run the ball, either way, for the most part. But they've made up for the defense's weak points, and there are weak points, as we've seen, especially yesterday. But hopefully Mike Zimmer will do some sort of adjustment over this bye week to either remedy it or mask it, because we're going to need it going into Seattle here in 2 weeks.
You know what's funny about you mentioned Seattle? That Seattle's made the transition that the Vikings are in the midst of right now, probably last year, where they went from being kind of a historic caliber defense to an offensive precedented team. The Vikings are, I mean, there's so many similarities between Seattle and Minnesota just in terms of like the roster construction. But it's been like that for kind of a long time, and the GMs are obviously buddies, and probably exchange text messages too much. But like you kind of have to go through that transition from being if you're winning on one side of the ball for so many years, like eventually those playmakers are just going to get old, like David said. Like it's just natural, and you hope that you've got the other side of the ball ready to wake up, and you see like that's how Seattle didn't even have to go through a rebuilding phase, because they literally just moved on from their studs. Some of them got pissed off and left, however they left, regardless. They just changed their style of play just to fit kind of what they had under center. So as soon as Russell Wilson kind of starts to take off, that defense falls back a little bit. All of a sudden they're a different team. And the Vikings are kind of doing the same thing with Kirk Cousins. Like I don't think anyone expected Kirk Cousins to kind of go on this run that he has over the last 7 games. If you look at the numbers, he's got 6 passer ratings over 100 in the last 7 weeks. The only one that's lower than 100 was the time when he had at 94 at Kansas City. Like, nobody saw this one coming. You could see it coming with Russell Wilson, but it's the same type of transition. and that's what winning franchises do. That's how you build stability within your organization and have consistency year in and year out. So I mean, it's nice to see for sure, but it's also kind of expected when you go from building around a defense to building around a quarterback. Where your salary cap should reflect kind of what the strength of your team is. And the Vikings are, whether Mike Zimmer enjoys it or not, that's just simply what's happening right now.
Man, I'm just not ready to close the book on this defense yet. And
don't close it. It may not be a top 5 defense anymore. It's still top 10, but
it doesn't need to be if your offense is scoring 30.
I understand that, but the defense by itself, number one, the solution is pretty simple. Like, nobody's walking through that door. Starting Holton Hill over Trey Waynes or Xavier Rhodes, that's not the solution here. They just got to go back, and Xavier Rhodes and Trey Waynes need to put in the work to improve from what they've been this year. One thing about the defense is it's not like there's no big miscommunication issues. They're still showing a good pass rush. They've had backups come in and play well. So it's really just the two guys on the outside, which is the leaky hole right now. Can they fix it? Can those two individual players actually step up the gameplay? That's what we're asking ourselves. And I've been saying this for 3 weeks now, so I can't even make a good point around it. But some of these plays the receivers are making are just like, it's Sammy Watkins one-hand grabs, and it's Amari Cooper, toe touches, and then Cortland Sutton with those contested catches. Part of me thinks that just sooner or later that doesn't continue, and the DBs are right there on those plays. It's not like they're way off; they're close.
I think stylistically that Mike Zimmer's not doing them any favors either. There's not nearly as much press coverage being run anymore.
Well, that's because I don't think he trusts Xavier to get over the top anymore. I mean, Xavier. The one thing, Xavier's not an off coverage corner, but he also doesn't seem to have the speed or the discipline that he had before in press coverage.
Is he that much slower though?
He ran
22 miles an hour 2 years ago.
I don't even think it's like just an overall speed. I think it's just a technique, and I just think there's a little bit of like his technique isn't what it used to be. It's not, there's the savvy moves he's making. He's getting beat off the line pretty easily right now. And before, you used to be able, like, guys who couldn't even get off the line because his arms are so long. And
I mean, he's getting beat off the line by nobodies too.
Right. Yeah. So it's one of those situations. It's like you back him up, so you're like, okay, we'll just keep everything in front of him rather than letting him get beat off the line, and then he loses his technique, and then that's where the penalties come in. Lots of different things are going on with Xavier. So I don't even know if it's like, I think like someone had said on the timeline on Twitter today, they had talked about, like, I don't know if it's his overall athleticism, but I think there's a definite decline in it, even if it's just slight. And it might be enough to the fact that Xavier's so used to being able to play as athletically as he did that it's not as that it's one of those things, because he relied on it so heavily, that when you can't play the same way you used to, it's hard to adjust. And I don't think that's something he's going to be able to adjust in season.
Yeah,
that's a great point.
Yeah, I agree with that point, Miles. And the other thing, Flip, you were kind of talking about, I agree. Some of the receivers are making ridiculous catches. And I don't really know what it's like for a corner or whatever, but for me, ball skills are something you have as a player or you don't have as a player. And Waynes and Rhodes have never been the best interception players, but they've always had good ball skills in terms of being able to get a hand up in there and being able to disrupt the pass. I mean, if we go back to like Chris Cook and like Josh Robinson when they were starting corners for us, like Chris Cook would be in position every single snap, and the receiver would still catch the ball, right? Because he just couldn't ever find the ball, and he couldn't ever make a play on the receiver.
And that's how it feels like right now with the cornerbacks.
Yeah, and that's what it feels like right now with the cornerbacks. And I don't know if that's something like you can just lose and you don't have it anymore, and you don't have that ability to like see in the receiver when the ball's coming and that sort of thing. I don't know how that works, but I'm concerned that it's something that's happened for them, because I don't think, Xavier has gotten burned way more often recently, I think, this year, and you saw it in the preseason even than he has in years past. But at the same time, they're in phase a lot of the time. Like Trey Waynes played that flea flicker as well as you can play a flea flicker from a defensive player, and the catch was still made.
I'm so mad about that play.
Yeah, and
I thought it was gonna be a pick.
Yeah, and I don't know what you can do about that. Like from a defensive coaching standpoint, right? Like because his arm's up there, he just misses the ball. Like it's not even like he didn't get his head around and didn't get his arm up. Like his arm was up there. It just he didn't get the ball. So like either you get players who somehow find the ball there, or Trey Waynes relearns how to find the ball. I don't know how that happens. So that's definitely where I'm concerned there.
I agree. I mean, it's obvious that this defense has taken a step back, but I think the biggest step back is the fact that you no longer have that shutdown cornerback. At least before, teams were, Xavier was shadowing the number one receiver, so you were not always taking them completely out of the game, but you know that their impact was going to be wasn't going to be as big as it normally would be. And then Trey Waynes would just line up against the team's number 2 receiver, so it kind of benefited him. That like the one thing Trey Waynes doesn't do is he doesn't give up deep plays because of that speed. He's pretty good at obviously running with guys. So I always gave him credit for the fact that I'm not worried about him down the field. It was always about the dink and dunks. Like he'd always give up the easy throws, the 5 to 10 to 15-yard plays. But you knew that against a second wide receiver, it isn't the impact, depending on the receiver, obviously, isn't going to be as great either. So like there was a lot of that you had so much assurance in and so much confidence in the pass defense, and then obviously the pass rush was elite, even though it is right now. So a lot of that impact is it's just not there that you're used to having. So I think Zim's struggling to figure out how to adjust to it too.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, I don't know if you guys noticed this. I think we did have Xavier track Sutton in this game, and it didn't work. I mean, Sutton got 113 yards, and we had that 30-something yard PI call too. Right. So I don't know if we can do it anymore.
You might have to give him safety
I think
help.
you have to.
I think they had safety.
You have to shadow.
They had safety help on the deep play early in the game to Sutton yesterday. They had Harrison Smith over the top. Like
he was late to it though.
But I mean it's there. Like they're doing that.
The way the throw was, Rhodes is the person who needs to make that play. Harrison Smith can't 100%. Come over the top and make that play. Rhodes needs to make it.
And he's in position. That's the worst part.
Yep.
Yeah, and he's in position. I just think the way you make the situation worse is you let Courtland Sutton move around, and all of a sudden you get him on Mackenzie Alexander instead of Xavier Rhodes. And I know Rhodes is struggling, but we saw Tyreek Hill go against Trey Waynes, and that was even worse.
Well, Tyreek Hill against just about anybody is bad. Tyreek Hill is fast.
True, which is why you put him on Trey Waynes. So don't let him do that.
Tyreek Hill is so fast that he was too fast for Trey Waynes. That's and it's not like that's the problem. He's a game-breaking player. It's like he's got 99 speed in Madden, and he's going to outrun you.
And that's probably not even fast enough.
Right.
Well, on that wonderful note, any last words, Flip?
I just got one more statement, and that's that this 2019 season for the Minnesota Vikings has been the most exciting on-field product through 11 games that we've seen in a long time. And I know that doesn't mean that we're always winning these games. There's some stressful moments. There's some big losses in there. But when you think about the uneven September, you think about the Kirktober, the hot streak, and these last 3 nail-biter games, what more can you ask for a football season? We only get 16 of these, hopefully 19. We've got a team that can get to the playoffs and make some noise in the playoffs, and we've got Kirk Cousins at the helm. It's been great. It's been fun, and I'm excited to see where this 2019 season goes. Skol Vikes.
Miles?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited to see how this team comes out of the bye. They obviously go on the road to Seattle on Monday night. That's going to be probably their biggest test of the season. under the lights, all that primetime, all that yada yada. I'm excited to see how they come out and prepare for that game. You hope they don't come out flat like we've seen them do in the past. You're hoping they're bucking some of these narratives, right? They've bucked some of them already, but you want that trend to continue. And then I want to see how they handle the divisional games, the last 3 divisional games at home to end the season and see how things go. This is a playoff team. They're going to have to be in the playoffs. Their offenses has shown that they've improved from last year. You hope the defense can get it just slightly better to help offset some of that. But this is a playoff team, and they should be positioning themselves at this point to be in the playoffs come January.
BJ?
First of all, thanks for having me, you guys. I appreciate it. I'm having a good time speaking with you guys. I'm just as excited as you guys are. I do need a week off, though. This bye week comes at a good time for me as well. It's just I'm struggling with the way that they're winning right now is just not good for my health. But as far as like entertainment value goes, like if you're an objective NFL fan right now, how do you not enjoy watching Vikings football? I mean, they are playing like prime time every single week, and they're winning. And this is, this has been an unprecedented run of success for Kirk Cousins. I'm excited to see it. I think that slowly that we're kind of shifting away from the expectation that the clunker is going to come from Cousins, and now it's more like we're starting to feel like, okay, every once in a while he's going to have a bad game like every other quarterback in the NFL. So that's really nice to see, and I'm getting very close to wanting to extend this guy again. And hell, if you want to give him guaranteed money again, if he's going to play this way, I'm cool with it.
Oh, easy.
Oh, yeah.
Easy.
Hey, if he plays like this every single week, you'll get.
I just think I want to see the season finish itself out before, you know what I mean. But I'm with you if things go well.
Hey, like I've said on my show, if he takes us all the way to the promised land, we win a Super Bowl. I'll do the artwork. We'll build him a statue, even of his conversion van. Yep, I'm cool with that. Matt, you got anything?
All right. So I guess first of all, we've been kind of negative on this show, really. I mean, we spent probably 3/4 of it complaining. I just want to say that, despite all of the complaints and problems we're kind of nitpicking because our bad things have been against the best teams in the league, right? The Packers are leading our division. The Cowboys are leading their division. The Chiefs are leading their division, and they're all some of the best teams in the league. This team is going to be competitive with any playoff team. And I think this Broncos game really showed us that they will be competitive and they will fight back. So the biggest thing for me is a positive from Kirk from this game, because he didn't back down like he has in the past. And he made me believe this team can compete with any other team in the playoffs. Before this game, if we had gotten down big in the playoffs, I would have felt terrible about it. Now I feel like we've got a fighting chance, and that's all you can ask for once you get there. It's going to be random. That's right.
Hey, I want to thank everybody for watching. Enjoy all our shows from Climbing the Pocket Network. We're partnering with Daily Norseman. You can catch all our stuff there and on our Climbing the Pocket website. See us on YouTube. See us on your favorite podcast aggregator. Like, subscribe, rate us, do whatever. Talk to us. We're all on Twitter. Thanks for watching. Go Vikings!
The game mind be elevated like Ron. Holy moly, you with the team or you don't. That means tell the rock we roll like Bon Jovi. Let's rock.